everyone. This is our first episode of our 3643 podcast. And joining today is the director board member of the ERC3643 Association, my good friend, and co-founder of Tokeny, Luc Falempin. Thanks for joining me, Luc.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's a great place. Great to see you. We don't see each other that often, so great to be here.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're truly my brother across the world. For those who don't know, Luc and I are the original founders of the ERC3643 Association, and we'll get into the whole history of that. But this is actually our first media event we've ever done together, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And in New York, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a huge week of news, which we get into. But a lot of people ask us, about 3643, about the association, the team behind the scenes, how much of a machine it is become and how much it's grown. And I figure what a better way than to talk about it as our first episode and get into it. So Luc, obviously you predated me in building the 3643 standard. How did that come to be? What was the thinking behind it?
It was a long journey because we started almost 8 years ago now,
wow.
Believe it or not, during the ICO craziness. So everything was tokenized suddenly, but you didn't know too much what was the projects behind. So we were like, okay, what if we bring real assets, good assets on chain? This infrastructure can scale. And so what if we do things seriously? That could be nice.
Yeah.
So that was the initial input. And then we started to work with clients. And we started to develop some smart contracts, simple smart contracts at the beginning. It was the early days of ERC-20. It was great already to have some kind of standard.
Wow.
Simple standard, but great. And step by step, we realized we need to do better. We need to tokenize the asset, but also to identify the investors properly on the blockchain, to manage permissions, to track ownership, that kind of things.
Yeah.
So working with our clients and their lawyers, we step
Always
by
good
step.
With the lawyers.
Yeah, and what was great actually, what people don't realize is that all of our clients came with their own legal advisory, right?
Yeah,
our law firms. So they were paying the law firms, and we discussed with hundreds of of law firms, and they were all trying to understand it and to study, and so we've learned a lot in a few years, and step by step we've developed the smart contracts to enforce these rules on chain, right?
Yeah, I don't think people realize how many legal firms are in our association. I think you and I talk to legal firms a fair bit, and it's amazing how good their questions are and how really fundamental they are
a lot, yes.
to smart contracts, with the word contract being in the phrase. And this obviously was way ahead of its time back then, right? I mean, we really hadn't seen the advent of any serious token standards or anything around compliance at that time, right? This was pretty early on.
Yeah, maybe in 2018, 2019, we started to see some kind of standards of people trying things.
Yeah.
We started to see some permission tokens with simple whitelist of wallets. But so we looked at all of these new things. We're like, okay, at least it's permission, a little bit compliance. At least it's not the ICO Wild West anymore, but still not there exactly. We didn't want to create a new standard, to be honest. We are a small team. We just wanted to provide solutions to our clients, right?
Yeah.
But we checked what was out there, and it was not good enough. As simple as that. So we keep building. We kept building for years, and 2-3 years ago now, I'm losing track of time. But we realized we have a standard.
Yeah.
Maybe we are too humble. Maybe we are not ambitious enough, or I don't know. But we should say it. We should push it to the market. We should package it. We should open source all of this, and that's what we've done. And the results were incredible.
To say the least. I mean, it's the largest RWA standard in the world today, which is quite a story. At what point did you guys decide? Because it's a very, I find for a lot of engineering teams, it's a big leap. Some are more open to it than others if they've done it. But to actually say, we're going to make a formal Ethereum proposal of this, when did that roughly happen? How that come about, and what was that process like?
So it was called the TRX protocol,
Yep.
token for regulated exchanges. We made the white paper. We started to get some good visibility because we had live tokens and clients in production. We tokenized the first equity in Europe. We started to do that kind of thing. So that was great. But it still sounded too proprietary, and it's blockchain.
Yeah,
So
I can see it.
if it's great, we need to open source it, and it needs to be a real ERC. It needs to be something else than just some kind of brand. So we started the process. It took a lot of time. The process with the Ethereum community.
Was it scary? Like what was just like a lot of trepidation, but was everyone like all in on it? Like what was the emotional side of it?
It was a lot of work because it forced you to respect some guidelines, to document properly, to test properly, etc., etc. We didn't get very interesting feedbacks on the code itself at the beginning. Sure. Now you have a lot of people using it, so it's much more interesting. But when we pushed it to be an ERC, honestly, the feedbacks we got were not that professional. But step by step, we passed the steps, and we got this number, ERC3643.
Yeah, it was assigned. It actually wasn't great. It was assigned in the canon of EIPs.
And actually, ERC42 was available, so we tried to get this one and say no, it will not work. So we got this 3,600.
Yeah, I know. It's like the DMV queue for Americans. It's super random. What are we up to? 8,000 ERC 8,000s now?
Yeah, it starts to be a lot because most of them are not used on a daily basis, I guess. And you have extension of extensions, so start to be a bit messy. But I think ERC3643 is very clear because it's an extension of ERC20, so it's compatible with the whole ecosystem of crypto and DeFi.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So we got that number. I think now it makes some kind of club, either you know the number or you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, we still call it the TRX protocol very often.
Yeah, and for everyone, because I guess all the time, TRX stands for?
Token for regulated exchanges.
Regulated exchanges.
But mostly it was fun to remember.
Yeah, and we'll get into that more. It's amazing to me because there are so many EIPs that don't go anywhere. And I think I was around by then where we reached final status December of 2 years ago. And I don't think I appreciated how big of an event that was. That was a big deal reaching that final status. I mean, for people who don't know, that effectively means that 3643 is in the official canon of standards. We're just as official as an ERC20 or 721 or 1155 as anything, which is incredibly special.
Yeah, because indeed you have a lot of people proposing things. That's why you have 8,000 ERC now. But for the final status, you don't have that many. I will not say numbers, but it's probably like 100, 200, maybe more.
Single hundreds or whatever, which, when you talk about tens of thousands or thousands of proposals that, barely even make it to EIP, that's a lot of concepts and certainly a lot of attempts at doing that. So I think people, not to take for granted, but they almost seem elusively obvious of what the benefit of standard is, but it took a lot of work. It took years to mature, and it's still ahead of its time. I routinely tell people about the centralized identity piece of it, which on-chain ID. Now, on-chain ID, is that its own EIP or standard, or what is on-chain ID to 3643?
Yeah, so it's based on ERC-734, 735. I'm not sure it achieves the final status actually, but then we modified it a lot for the different purposes we had. We called it on-chain ID. In the code of ERC3643, you have something called on-chain ID. But one of the projects of the association, as you know, is to make it as well an ERC. To make sure people understand it's open source as well. Yeah. It's not a KYC solution. It's just a way to bring identity proofs and verifiable credentials on chain. Because very often people think it's a proprietary KYC solution. We are not trying to replace KYC agents at all. We just try to identify properly the different stakeholders on chain, issuers, their agents, investors, so you can apply permissions basically directly on chain.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people overlook it. They fixate on the token side, the token controls, but on-chain ID, it's a very important part, self-sovereign ID. And jumping ahead a little bit, when we work with regulators around the world, on-chain ID actually gets a lot of questions. So it's good to know that the EIP 3643, does that include on-chain ID or
Yes,
it
yes,
does?
it's fully included. And indeed, the more we were looking at securities regulations all around the world, the more we found the common patterns, basically.
Yeah.
And the first thing is rules related to investors. You need to control their jurisdiction, their status, if they are professional investors, qualified, accredited, whatever you call it, depending on the jurisdictions. But all of this, you cannot do it with a wallet, especially if they have several wallets or if someone got their private key and sometimes they don't even know. All of these rules, we needed to properly identify people, individuals or corporates. So that was a great start. And now in ERC3643, you have these two set of rules related to investors and related to the offering.
I mean, I think it's brilliant, and I think it's the reason why the standard is so successful. Is that decentralized identity, and there was a lot back in 2018 around decentralized identity that really never took off. It's actually quietly one of the more successful self-sovereign identities, right? It almost feels like a motorcycle with a sidecar, and people fixate on a motorcycle. And as you say, it's so fundamental. People don't realize how fundamental it is in terms of the claims, different KYC claims. Even one of our crown jewels, which is like account recovery, is absolutely fundamental in that process, and you cannot have it without some sort of self-sovereign ID. So yeah, we hit the final status in December of 23, I think it was. And I remember being part of that, and that was extremely exciting. From there, by then we had already started the association. So a lot of people ask, like, how did we come to create an association? I like to say that there's some like big grandiose plan, but I think it was more of you and I are both very entrepreneurial. We're very passionate. We see that there's a lot of need. And I think we kind of organically said, this would be better if we had some sort of like dedicated group around it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we realized that it's good to push some code, but then you need to make it evolve. I mean, we work in the blockchain space. Every day you have something new. So it's good to have a first version, but we knew that other versions will come later on. New regulations as well, etc. So we needed some help, I guess, to keep developing this from a technical point of view, but it's also an operational point of view. I mean, we're trying to build an ecosystem, right? So I guess it was making sense to do this non-profit association on top of the protocol. Yeah.
Luxembourg nonprofit, and I think we are very community focused, which from coming from my finance background is quite rare. Usually you're taught, keep everything closed up, patent it all up, and keep it for yourself. And I think we realized that the community was certainly in need. There were conversations we thought we were having very kind of distinctly with different parties that we felt together actually it would be better for themselves. And I think it was 23, early 23 we incorporated, or 22.
Honestly, I'm losing track.
I'm losing,
with everything happening, it's quite insane. I mean, the whole market has totally changed. If you just check the last 12 months, so yeah, it's been a while.
I remember it being around the FTX collapse because I was doing a few projects that were community focused, and one of the key challenges for great projects to survive was just connecting with the right parties, whether it was clients or services or lawyers, whatever. And I remember saying to you guys, we're having so many conversations around the world, people just looking for resources, especially, around the token and around this whole implementation. What if we put them all together, and what if we created like a members focused association? And so we did that. We called the ERC3643 Association. Again, very humble beginnings. Right. A large part of the original team is still with us. Right. So, beyond Luc and myself, which do, the majority of the PR, the conferences, the events we just held in Token 24/9, which was very successful. There's a whole team of people behind us. And I want to give them a huge shout out, because without them, the machine doesn't run.
Sure.
So I'll go first because, I think Shurang She's absolutely fantastic. She has great work. She's, stretched super thin because of all the stuff now today, but she was there with us from the beginning, and she continues to do great work. And you found her, actually.
Yeah, almost 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a journey for sure. But yeah, I guess we came already, with all the partners and clients of Tokeny initially, and big part of our team as well. And so it was quite easy to launch and to bring the right people, and we've met, and we started to make it a nice story. I think we didn't take that much time to reach like 100 each members now.
Very quickly.
We had very relevant members since the start, like a few months after we launched the association. So that was very successful.
I mean, and it's been totally organic. And another, Joe Cam, obviously huge. He was the one who actually created the standard along with a few others, and he's still helping us on a daily basis. And I think overall, what is the team we roughly have? We have about like 5 to 6 people. Fairly dedicated. A big thank you to Tokeny, obviously, that has to be said, for giving resources. And some of the members give quite a lot of resources as well. My friend Peregrine, where we could help. Marcelo, I'll give him a little shout out. Danielle, obviously, Cohere, huge shout out for him. And frankly, many others that have come and gone have made this all possible. And, the association that we had and continue today. So, I want to give them a huge thank you because, the amount of incoming we have nowadays, like people don't realize we run a global enterprise, a global nonprofit. And when I say global, I mean, there are weeks where I'm in London, someone's in New York, someone, you or Joe Cam are in Asia or in Hong Kong, someone's in Singapore, and someone's on a plane flying in between. All at the same time, which makes meetings extremely difficult. But it's a testament to what we've built, right? And the members are very globally distributed.
Indeed, and what I like is that we successfully did an association where you have good outputs. Like it's not a lobbying association. We're not trying to make reports or things like this all the time. We see concrete needs on the market, and we bring the right people around the same table, and we fix these issues. Like we just finalized a project around cross-chain compatibility for ERC3643 tokens.
Huge.
Privacy. I mean, everybody's talking privacy now. We have 3 solutions for privacy with the ERC3643. Distribution is probably the next big topic. We want to bring some transparency to show the ecosystem with the dashboard. So a lot of things ongoing, and we are more and more productive.
Oh, absolutely. And on the regulatory side, we have, I think we sent a letter to a regulator, and we said, I think 8 different regulatory bodies around the world, which is unbelievable. We've been featured in the UK, in Europe, obviously extensively in the Middle East, in Singapore, and recently HKMA in Hong Kong, which is amazing. That I think a big benefit of the association is that regulatory clarity that we work with the members on, addressing their concerns, working with all different lawyer firms to engage, and we're not a lobbyist group. We don't have a massive treasury to go and lobby regulators. I'm proud of that fact because it is so organic. I mean, many times people will pay PR teams or pay to AstroTurf interest in regulators, but actually for us, we are able to run a lean shop because your interest is so organic, both from the membership side and the engagement side. And we constantly get pinged by regulators around the world who want to learn more about it, who want to be educated about it. We know they are very interested in the standard, and we are very passionate about making sure the standard is available in every major sandbox in the world. And also, recently in the United States, which we're looking at to do a lot of stuff.
And it's good because regulators heard about the standard, and also they have large financial institutions coming to see them and say, what do you think if we use this standard?
Yeah.
Because it checks the box that they need, who is responsible of doing what, and what are the permissions, the security, there's a recovery process, amazing. So you can do your custodian job, etc. So when it's pushed by large regulated entities,
absolutely,
it helps.
Yeah, I mean, we have been featured in some pretty awesome pilot projects with institutions. I won't name any of them in case, but you go online and Google them. But some of the largest banks that everyone knows in the world, it's not even just localized to the West, but in Asia and across and concurrently, still see our standard as the de facto standard to use, which is pretty incredible considering how little lobbying we do. Again, it's these institutions coming to us, educate them, they see all the benefits of it, and they go and adopt and they take it. And I think that's incredible.
I think now it's a proven standard, it's audited, and we made it super easy to use because, of course, it's a suite of smart contracts. You have like 6 smart contracts by default. You can add other compliance modules. But in one blockchain transaction, you deploy the whole thing.
Yeah.
So actually, it's not complicated to use.
No, actually, we've made it very fast and easy. I have to say I am proud of that, especially the work you've done there. With the factory. I mean, we've kept, membership does have criteria now because we have so many, but, we've kept membership very easy for the right people to join, institutions to join. We've made the standard openly available and easily digestible. And, not everyone does that, which is a huge credit. And I think we're seeing now the benefits of the association writ large. We're seeing a lot more adoption of the standard, a lot more adoption across all asset classes. So a lot of people think, 3643 used just for private markets, but we've seen it for everything from commodities to equities to NFTs even. You could do anything you want in that standard, which is pretty amazing. And we've seen it across all sorts, big, small, DeFi, TradFi, big and large. So there is no like one category for the standard, which I'm very proud of. And even entities like Ethereum Enterprise Alliance and the Ethereum Foundation have taken a note, which, again, what are we? We're just, a small team with this, massive community. And it's really great to see their excitement and their engagement with the standard as well.
Yeah, definitely. And indeed it can be used for so many things. You can tokenize whatever you want and decide what this token represents. If you want to track ownership on chain, this is a standard you can use. So for payment systems, for securities, for RWAs, for anything, it can be $1 billion funds or it can be nothing.
Yeah.
your Rolex. we had a lot of projects to tokenize everything, but of course we focus on good things on Tokeny side, but the standard can be used to tokenize anything you want.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of aggressive adoption on private markets, which is amazing. Because I think that's probably the first port where people see value, where they have needed value. And I think we've done a great job of understanding why standards are so important. One of the things we've also worked with is with ISO and with Anna as well, to understand what does financial standards look like in the future, and using 3643 as an exemplar, right, of that, which is really, really exciting.
And we're trying to connect to the financial ecosystem, not to recreate these standards you can find in finance, but just to link them to the blockchain rails, basically. So for example, in the ERC3643, you also have what we call asset ID, which is an on-chain identity, but for the asset itself.
Yeah.
Same codes and the identities for the investor, so very convenient to use. And directly in this asset ID, you can add a lot of information, certified information. The LEI, for example, so the LEI is this identity for corporates recognized everywhere in the world. Now you have the DTI, which is some kind of identifier for tokens. Then you have a lot of information, the NAV, etc., ratings or whatever you want.
Yep.
So you can already deploy tokens easily, enrich these tokens with compliance rules, with data, and then step by step distribute everywhere on blockchain rails.
Everywhere and on many blockchains. A very common question I get is, well, where is this standard available? I mean, technically any EVM chain it's available on, which is something. And I won't say which ones out of confidentiality, but there are several other non-EVM chains which we actively work with to see either a 3643 or 3643 inspired standard. And so that has also been a big deal, is that we've now reached out and seen the standard find adoption in totally different ecosystems, which is really, really cool to see. But I think that goes to the heart of the association and why standards are important, because I think people miss that it's not about functionally, building your own smart contract that meets all these requirements in a bespoke manner. It's about accelerating adoption so that the next firm or the next institution or next art dealer, whoever wants to use the standard, doesn't have to reinvent the wheel or have to look at 5 different ways to make a wheel. They could go, this standard is widely adopted. It's great for interoperability, right? Which we just did that because they have the same controls on both ends of the bridge, which is fundamental. It's great for regulators because they have a whole corpus of precedent now of work that's been done, review that's been done, which frankly is unrivaled from not just 3643, but other than ERC-20 or 721, I don't know. I'm not aware of any other EIP that's had this much scrutiny outside on the regulatory front. So it matters quite a bit in terms of we go to a new jurisdiction. I was talking to someone who had a new jurisdiction in Southeast Asia, and they were like, "Oh, we saw Singapore, we saw Hong Kong adopt the standard. Can we import it?" And I'm like, "Yes, it's very easy." And here's a huge email of like 50 links showing you all the different reports and work that's been done. And that gives them confidence because they don't have to re-adjudicate all the different aspects of the standard. And, we really can move on from saying, well, do we really need to invent this in a bespoke way? Just adopt the standard and move on because, the standard is an ends to a means, not in and of itself.
Very often you have new rules or new countries who wants to progress in the direction. You feel that ERC3643 is the answer?
It's
because
everywhere.
It's always the same concept. You always need to have someone who is responsible for what's going on and to identify properly who are the token holders because they are the holders of the assets, the owner of the assets. So ERC3643 works for all of these cases.
Yeah, we've had massive success in the United Arab Emirates. I mean, in fact, I think we were very smart to focus on there, both from our own companies as well as the association. I mean, I think between you and me and a few others, I think we've presented to every regulator. There's over 5 offshores in that one country. Some very prestigious, some very fun, some in between, and some very crypto, right? Super crypto. And I think we should actually talk about that because the UAE for our standard has been really fantastic, right? Whether it's in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or in between, we've seen heavy adoption and use of our standard for all kinds of things.
Yes, the energy is quite impressive. I agree.
Yeah. I think, the future we'll see for, the standard or on the regulatory side or jurisdiction side still is in Asia. I think there's a lot of great work to do in Japan and Korea. I think we got a lot of interest from there. We're very encouraged by Hong Kong. I think that's the first step of many in that region. And I think even South America is very much on board to it. So, in a few short years, we'll probably have, global coverage at the highest level for really any use case. I mean, I'm aware of use cases from CBDCs all the way down to NFTs.
Indeed, yeah. I think we will in the next few years we'll keep building with large financial institutions, right? They will all of them will step by step adopt the standard, but hopefully then we will start tokenizing good assets in South America, Africa. India is finally moving forward. So
That's right, India. Yeah,
we can really upgrade finance, and a bit like with the internet, when in Africa they didn't go to the computer stage, they directly went to the mobile phone stage.
Yeah.
I think we can do the same and upgrade finance in all of these regions where people don't really have access to bank accounts or to any investment opportunities.
Yeah, and give them the control and clarity that they need. Luc, let's turn our attention to the future of the association because we just crossed 100 institutional members. I think more on the way. I think we'll continue to get some really great ones coming. Some brand names everyone knows across the whole spectrum. I think we'll see some more stuff into DeFi as well. That will be very exciting. But we have a couple of projects in the works, and one I'm very excited about, which is the T-Rex project. So let's talk about the T-Rex project.
Yes, I think the idea is that we already have now a large B2B consortium with all of these companies, financial institutions, law firms, tokenization platforms, Web3 players working all together for the future of the standard. And I was like, okay, it's great, but what we want is mass adoption.
Yeah.
So how do we do this? And in the same logic that we open source the protocol, now we need to open the community, right? And even the governance of all of this. So we needed to find, I guess, this balance between having an efficient governance, but open, bringing the seriousness and of large financial institutions, but still making it available to the world.
Yeah.
So I think we found this good spot where we have the association who will keep developing the standards, making sure that it works well, providing guidelines basically to the RWA ecosystem. And now what we are trying to do is to open a community, a DAO, that we call the TRX network.
Yep.
Why not?
Yeah.
And by the way, let's make it a bit fun. Of course, TRX, we can play with this.
Lots of dinosaurs.
So why not? I mean, when it's fun, people are eager to learn and to play with this. So it's really what we try to do. So now we are launching indeed this DAO, this community, and we'll see how it goes. Actually, we just announced it like a few days ago, and in the last 24 hours, we got like 10,000 followers on X and on Discord, in a day. So it really shows that a lot of people want to access this tokenized assets. They know that it has to be done in a compliant way, so we not change all the rules, bypass all the rules, of course, but we can still make finance more accessible. So we're going in that direction. And TRX Network has three main targets. We have the asset owners who want to tokenize their assets. We have the application builders. And also, obviously, we have the on-chain investors. And people want to access all of these opportunities, manage their portfolio, leverage this in DeFi, creating on-chain finance, basically.
Yeah. For a mass adoption. And so, I think very well said. I'm very excited about this. This is clearly one of the main key futures of what we're trying to do. As you said, we'll keep ERC3643 as a nonprofit. We have a lot of institutions there, and that has a lot of serious work with it. And I think the association has become a more serious endeavor by the nature of who's joined. And I view that almost kind of like the business end. And then I think underneath that, there was a larger community that wanted to engage, but wasn't sure how, with the association kind of taking more on like this, regulatory, enterprise, institutional focus. And so to me, it always made a ton of sense. We've seen other RWA ecosystems, do similar. And I think we're working with a fantastic team internally to realize this dream of T-Rex, right? And keep it more fun. Because at the end of the day, we want the community to engage in a way they couldn't before with the association. Exactly. So it's for everyone listening at home, ERC3643 is a nonprofit Luxembourg. We'll keep it as is. And then we're creating this whole new project that is international focused and DAO focused. And actually to do a real DAO is, to me, extremely exciting because at the end of the day, we adopt all aspects of blockchain, right? And I think it's important for us to show, the world that, you can do a responsible DAO and you can do a DAO focused on what we're passionate about, which is compliance and control. And that there's a much bigger community out there than just, large institutions looking to tokenize $1 trillion.
Definitely.
We always had great engagement on the GitHub. In the early days of the association, we had a ton of projects. And I think T-Rex is really going to give us, a means to really take that community and do some really cool things with the standard. I mean, certainly, and you know this very well, standards is still very much in motion. People are continuing to adopt and build on top of standard.
Yeah, and we want this. We encourage this.
Yeah.
We don't say it's a magical standard and you can do everything. We just say it's a solid basis to tokenize assets and then to build applications on top of this. And actually, the TRX network will mostly be an app store available to all of these users, depending on what they're trying to do, at what stage they are. We need to create an ecosystem that is interoperable technically, but also operationally. It works well together. when a token arrives to a fund administrator or a distributor, they need to understand what type of smart contracts it is, that it is audited, etc. Like checking the provenance of the smart contract without any complexity. It's exactly what we'll provide. And I think it's great to have separated the community with the association, because the association is providing the guidelines, and the community will basically be a large group of people with skin in the game, agreeing all together that they will follow the guidelines of the association. Because if you try to put everything in the same bucket, it's hard for a large community with people from all around the world, different background, different wealth, etc., to decide anything. So with the association, we ensure that the protocol will evolve in a right way, in a serious way, with resources, human resources, financial resources,
serious institutions,
because we have indeed big players. And this is made available to the community, and the community say, okay, we will build on top of that, but by respecting these guidelines.
Yeah, and I think that's hugely exciting because, building the association, what we have, our channels, also our social media channels, are overwhelmed on a daily basis. And, I give a shout out to the internal team as well. I know you as well as me, it's overwhelming to deal with, but people don't realize we actually have a lot of channels for T-Rex now that they can engage in. I think you mentioned the expos. I think the Discord. What are some ways that if someone's watching this and say, oh, well, the association I get, that's for like the serious enterprise, suit and tie kind of stuff. I want to just build and see if I could put my stuff on the App Store. How do they get involved with T-Rex?
So for the association, the protocol itself is mostly LinkedIn and GitHub and all the developer tools. For the T-Rex network is the community, so it's more like X and the Discord channels indeed. We'll see how it goes. Yesterday the Discord almost exploded, so who knows next week we'll get organized. But so far, yes, this is how it works.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a ton of exciting stuff in that Discord. For us, I always say that there's like largely 3 initiatives, but there's obviously more between you and me for all the stuff we do with the association, right? We've expanded the standard to different versions. We've engaged very serious regulators and standards bodies. But the third one is a good faction of our association is DeFi focused. And I think it's always was a bit of square peg round hole with the association and some of the more DeFi stuff. And I think that will fit really well into T-Rex in that sense, because I think everyone can let their hair down. They have a ton of fun. We're going to meme the hell out of it. It's going to be dinosaurs in suits in boardrooms. It's going to be tons of fun. And we've seen that with other serious RWA communities as well. And I think it'll be a lot of fun on the surface. And I think it will attract some very serious talent to really push 3643 into the future and the future of distribution, which we both agree is clearly in DeFi. Yes. Some people call it RWA-Fi or whatever, but we don't want 3643 tokens sitting dormant on blockchains. We want them in the middle of it. We want them as part of it. And we want them as a key cornerstone of it.
Yes, the challenge is not to create tokens and to block them in some wallet or at the bank, or we've seen a lot of initiatives like this over the past few years. Is to make sure that people use their tokens. So DeFi, secondary market, collateralization, lending, etc. And this is already compatible technically. So there's we just need people who are smart enough to create a good UX specifically for this type of assets. Eventually with the right licenses, because with securities you cannot do everything you want. But we have all of those people already. We just need to give them a framework where they can all work together, and where step by step we build an audience of people interested in that kind of things. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's been one of our larger underserved audiences is some pretty amazing DeFi protocols who do reach out to us all the time. We have some amazing build teams as well that are curious. And I think that's honestly the future of the standard, what we build. And I think the strength of the standard will show that this is a great starting point. And whatever your utility is, whether you want to do a hyperliquid, whether you want to do Aave or a Uniswap, or even something even crazier like a yield strategy or whatever, you still want that compliant control on the asset. we got it right here in spades. And, we see a lot of, I think industry-wide, the idea of bridging RWA into DeFi has become more and more obvious. But I think we saw it months ago from our association and from our community. Our community really was ahead of it. And I think that's really what's exciting about the communities. They tend to be 6 to 9 months ahead of where everyone else is in this space. So it's absolutely worth joining just for that, to be in the zeitgeist of RWA, on the heartbeat of it.
And for DeFi protocol, it's great because you don't have much to do. I mean, there are ERC-20 tokens on steroids, but you don't need that much to do. The whole compliance part is built in the token. So actually, you can focus on what your app is doing without really thinking about the compliance rules. The compliance rules are already there and coded, defined by the issuer of the token. So you don't even need to worry about that.
It's a runaway train.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basing things on standards which don't have the composability or the control of 3643, I view as very risky. And I even think friendly regulators who would even tolerate a permission to permissionless conversation would really balk at the fact that you have no way to shut the thing down or control it. At the end of the day, especially in the cases where you're doing with securities, you need to have some sort of regulatory control or some sort of, maybe not even regulatory control, but just some way to handle things. And I think we saw, what disasters can be with poorly constructed protocols, poorly constructed synthetic stablecoins, algorithmic stablecoins. We've seen a lot of, attempts with RWA to embrace synthetic stablecoins or protocol stablecoins. We'll see whether that works out or not. I know the teams behind them are very talented and smart. But we've had talented and smart teams have some pretty disastrous consequences, and we don't want another Terra Luna situation happening with RWAs where everyone ran to this and got it wrong. And so I think that's another big benefit of both the T-Rex community and the DAO is really helping guide that in a responsible way. And I think being the key linkage, and I think this is unique among the entire landscape. I don't think there's a L2 or L1 that does this particular aspect of it from our community. And I'm very excited to kind of accelerate that with the T-Rex project.
Yes, and now we launched this app store where we already have a lot of applications already live, actually, because provided by different members of the ecosystem to issue tokens, to manage these tokens, to get access to the catalog of all tokens. To index blockchain data for RWAs. We have all of these tools already available. We just need to...
Dashboards.
Exactly.
Another big thing we get asked about all the time is, 35 billion in assets tokenized on 3643. Well, can I go to RWA.xyz and see it? And I'm going to turn to the camera here. Yes, we have been asking about it. It's not an easy thing for us, actually, because of the nuances of who uses it. Not everyone wants to market to, put it to price. But I think one of the big things we'll do with T-Rex Network is create those dashboards and really index those projects, because by the nature of it, they're comfortable with being more public. But the 35 billion is actually probably a conservative estimate across public and private chains, I believe it captures, which is pretty amazing. So, we're getting you a dashboard. It's coming. But there was some other big news. I'm conscious of time. There was some other big news this week. Luc, would you like to share your big news this week?
Yes, why not? With pleasure. So Apex, which is a large fund administrator, probably the largest privately owned fund administrator. So they administrate $3 trillion of assets. So it's not an asset manager. Right. They do the servicing. So everything to manage a fund, like accounting, reporting, transfer agent, etc. So basically, Apex is as a golden copy of all of these funds. They are responsible of making sure that the cap table of these funds, the register, is correct. When there are subscriptions, redemptions, transfer, etc. And this large player is very visionary. They are a member of the association for since
one of our
the beginning,
better members,
actually,
absolutely.
And yesterday we announced that they acquired the Tokeny, a majority stake in Tokeny, which is a software provider. So I'm the CEO at Tokeny as well. And what it means for the ecosystem is that now we have this large player administrating 20,000 funds, something like this, owning a lot of different entities all around the world, 13,000 people, 50 countries. They own a bank, they own a lot of different things. So they have a large TradFi ecosystem. And now they're fully supporting ERC3643, and they want to upgrade their ecosystem to blockchain rails.
I love that.
So that's what we're gonna do. We'll see how long it takes, but now with this acquisition, we have all the means to make it happen.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly exciting. Yeah, my firm Peregrine, we use Apex. They're a phenomenal team. We use them both in Abu Dhabi and Hong Kong, based out of Bermuda. I can't think of a no better steward than Apex for Tokony's future. I think it's tremendous. I congratulate Peter and the team and you guys on this. I think it cannot be understated how big this is for the industry. I think it paints a bright future for the association, a bright future for the T-Rex project, and a bright future for Tokeny.
And it's what the ecosystem needs, because when you have an asset to tokenize, it's quite complicated. You need to find lawyers, you need to find a technology provider, you need to find a fund administrator.
A lot of work.
Usually you need to find a jurisdiction because it's still complex. So with this partnership with Apex, supporting the protocol, basically you have end-to-end shop to make it happen. Yeah.
You know, it's truly super scale for Tokeny and for the association. And I think that's really been the big hockey stick moment is where can we find a critical mass? And you can't find critical mass without an Apex, right? They are like basically the the warehouse, the de facto warehouse for all fund admin work worldwide. There's like a scale of economies of scale that they have achieved that few have. And so by championing 3643, this will just take us to a whole nother stratosphere of potential. So I think it's incredibly exciting news. I know you guys were working really hard on it behind the scenes, and a big congratulations to you and the Tokeny team, and really looking forward to Apex helping us in the future with the association and the T-Rex project.
Yeah, it's a great achievement for the team for sure, but for the whole ecosystem, I think, because as you say, it's just the beginning. Yeah. Well, Luc, thank you so much for coming on the first episode of the 3643 podcast. So grateful that I got to do this with you, and lots more to do in the future. So, Luc, thank you so much for coming. Yeah, thanks to you. Great to see you, and we should do that more often. It's fun. Yeah, we absolutely should. Maybe we'll meet at an airport one day. Why not? Thank you.